now to the legal battle over deportations. Over the weekend, the Trump administration deported hundreds of Venezuelans that it says are gang members, despite a judge's order to turn the flights around. The law at issue dates to 1798. A constitutional clash is likely looming. Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce is tracking the story. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, George. Well, we are now seeing a real showdown between this administration and the judicial branch. The White House this morning is celebrating this move, insisting the president is acting within his authority to speed up deportations, despite that directive from a federal judge that these Venezuelan immigrants be returned to the U.S. immediately. This morning, hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members are waking up in prison in El Salvador after the Trump administration rapidly deported them, ignoring a federal judge's directive. This video, shared by El Salvador's president, shows the alleged members of the Tren de Aragua gang arriving in San Salvador Saturday, just hours after a judge ordered planes carrying the men to immediately return to the U.S. Trump over the weekend invoking the Alien Enemies Act, an obscure wartime law from 1798, allowing the government to deport non-citizens with little or no due process. The law last used to play a role in the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II.
I'll simply say they never should have been allowed into our country in the first place. It's our responsibility to protect our families, to keep our streets clean and safe, and that's exactly what the president said he was going to do.
But after some non-citizens represented by the ACLU sued the administration, that federal judge, in an emergency hearing Saturday, ordered any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States, adding this is something that you need to make sure is complied with immediately. The two planes already in the air, sources tell us the administration made the calculated decision to ignore that directive. Sources say the planes carrying the alleged gang members took off during the hearing, the administration eager to get them in the air out of U.S. airspace and over international waters before the judge's ruling. In response to that order to turn the planes around, the president of El Salvador, a Trump ally, posting, "Oopsie, too late."
They needed to be brought back, and the judge absolutely had authority to do that. The United States government, the executive branch, defying a federal court order raises the stakes enormously, not just in this case, but for how we're going to proceed as a constitutional republic.
But the White House this morning insists the administration did not violate the court order and that the president acted within his authority, claiming federal courts have no jurisdiction over the president's conduct of foreign affairs or ability to remove foreign enemies. Now, all this comes as a Brown University professor, Dr. Rasha Alawi, a kidney transplant specialist, has been deported despite having a valid visa and despite a court order temporarily blocking her expulsion. A Lebanese citizen, she was detained last week after returning to the U.S. from visiting her family and put on a plane out of the country, again, despite that court order. A hearing in her case is scheduled for today.
Okay,
George.
Mary, thanks. Let's get more on this from our chief Washington correspondent, John Carl. John, let's start with the deportations to El Salvador. We just heard Mary say the administration knew they were defying the order. So this is likely to head perhaps to the Supreme Court.
Yes, George, as Mary reported, it was we are told, a calculated decision to ignore the judge's directive. The hearing on this is rather extraordinary. The hearing on this had already started before those planes took off. It was before the judge actually issued the order, but it was after it was quite clear the judge was skeptical of the use of this 1798 Alien Enemies Act. By the way, that is an act that has only been used 3 times in all of American history. So the judge was clearly skeptical of it. And then when the order came, the order was clear that even if the planes had taken off, they were to turn around. Let me read you what the judge said. You shall inform your clients of this immediately. Any plane containing these folks that is going to take off or is in the air needs to be returned to the United States. Now, the White House says that this is an order that was an extraordinary imposition on the executive branch, that the judge simply had no authority to interfere with the president's conduct on national security and foreign affairs matters. But as you also heard Mary point out, this has huge implications for the other court cases working their way through right now on other actions by this president.
Which is why it's likely to go to the Supreme Court. And the Brown University doctor had a valid work visa. So what authority did the administration use to deport her?
Well, her attorneys say she had a valid H-1B visa to be an assistant professor at Brown University. By the way, she's educated in the United States, Washington University, Yale University. We'll find out more on this at today's hearing.
Meantime,